Hi everyone. Sorry for the delay. Thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure speaking with you guys again. After our last webinar, that's in February. Thank you very much, and welcome to our anniversary event. I'll leave this to Folumy to take over from here.
Hi everyone.
Hi everyone.
Apologies because we were having a bit of technical issues, but I think that's resolved now. And so we have a lot today on the agenda. But before I start, it's important that we sort of give a background story on how InsurTech Business Series podcasts, emerged. And I remember that myself and Damola haven't worked together before at Lagos Television in Nigeria. That's one of the media houses owned by the state. That's Lagos State, really. Meeting again in the insurance industry and realizing that there were a lot of, communication gap as relates to insurance as well as insurance technology. We decided to, put this particular good skills and experience that we've acquired over the years to good use. And so together we were able to come up with the Insurance Business Series podcast. Now, the podcast is a flagship initiative of a new consulting firm called Gray Limited, really. And so the initiative was, a product of, of course, I've mentioned the product of coming together of myself and as well as Damola, where we saw the need to, bring to the fore conversations about insurance and insurance technology, especially as, it was increased by the coronavirus pandemic. We saw that there was a need to cover as well as help insurance companies to transition to a more digitalized environment. And we also saw the need to contribute to the growth of our penetration index rates as well as contribution to the overall GDP, which still stands at 0.3% after a very long time. And so this had been, the awesome history of our amazing podcast. And beyond that, we've, taken these conversations to different thought leaders across the globe. We initially started with the impression of, just doing these bits in Nigeria, but it has extended to Africa. And now we've been able to reach out to people, beyond Africa across the globe. And having done all of this, we've also sought to expand, our conversations through webinars. We had our very first webinar called Agribusiness, in Africa early this year, I think sometimes in February. And, that was actually one of the productive webinars we've had. And also we had a conference last year, 2020. Some of our speakers were who are going to be speaking today were actually at that conference, and it was very exciting. The very first in Nigeria, I dare to say, and so having all of this, we are also looking just beyond these conversations into seeing how we can collaborate with people and, as much as possible, address some of these issues that we're having both in Nigeria as well as Africa. So the webinars will continue to run concurrently. We have one that's coming up by May, which is going to be Women in Insurance. I mean, it's important to have discussions about gender balance in the industry. Next, also, we're looking to, start up an accelerator program for insurance and InsurTech startups in Nigeria. We're looking, again, this is me saying actively that we're looking for, active partnerships, especially from top leaders that have been able to, carry out most of these accelerator programs in their various countries. We're looking to start this in Nigeria anyway. And of course, Gray Limited will be there to oversee this particular accelerator program. Now down to the agenda. Of course, we'll be having discussions with our beautiful panelists who have, graced us with their time, as well as these are thought leaders who have written, very knowledgeable books about how to transition to a digitalized era, about selling, and as well as how we can adapt during the period of this age of disruption, really. And so I would like to, up next anyway, would be question sections. And then we would also have a toast by the IBS Man of the Year, which is Rob Galbraith. And then finally, vote of thanks. This will be taken by my amiable co-host, Damola. So I'd just like to give a brief introduction of our panelists. I'd like to start first with Eunice Maina. So who is Eunice anyway? So Eunice is the founder and CEO of Bisbjerg, a Kenya-based digital insurance aggregator, as well as, online insurance marketplace that allows insurance firms, list their products as well as customers to compare and buy various insurance products from these multiple companies. I think is really a good one to move from just, a front-facing agency to now having like a digital-based market space. And so Eunice also is an accomplished insurance business leader with over 9 years management experience in the insurance product and distribution channels development. She also has hands-on experience in insurance sales and relationship management in both conventional and micro insurance. Eunice is the author of the book, Sell Me This Pen. The cell literally has money written on it. You have like the dollar sign, you have the pound sign, and the other money signs. Anyway, the book tells a story of grit and determination, a journey of becoming and the ideals of an entrepreneur, which she has exhibited over the years. Eunice is a passionate person. She's passionate about insurance, InsurTech, as well as how InsurTech can help in providing excellent customer experience to the insurance customer. So welcome, Eunice. I'd like to move on to Frederik. Right. So Frederik Bisbjerg, which has been on our podcast as well as our conference. Frederik is a highly respected international business developer with expertise in digital transformation and business model innovation. Is the executive director of digitalization at Daman National Health Insurance Company. It's one of the largest insurers in the GCC. He oversees the company's digital transformation initiatives, building a digital, fast, flexible, and resilient insurance company. Besides Daman, the position as of Maina and digital insurance, with more than 35 RG and big data and best practices architectures. I think it's even important that after this, we should go and check out this and what we need to say, whatever age we are practicing in manual or to a more automated system. Then apart from that, he is actually a sought after speaker. And there's another person still here who actively does speaking. I'll come back to that later. But is the author of Insurance Next, which is a practical guide to go agile and resilient for the new normal following the COVID-19 outbreak. So again, it's important to go check out his YouTube page. You will have exciting insights on how to carry out this transition. And so welcome, Frederik. I'd like to move on to Bryan before I come back to the man of the year. So Bryan is the founder and managing partner of Insurance Evolution Partners, which advises carriers and their partners on how to navigate an evolving industry facing disruption and change. Bryan has spent 20 years in the insurance industry, including serving as head of claims for East Coast in USA, as well as leading growth for InsurTech Communication Solutions. Bryan has also held leadership roles in corporate strategy, operations and distributions at carriers like Liberty, Mutual, and Beardsley he was a consultant in McKinsey and Company insurance practice, and is on the advisory boards of several startups focused on the insurance industry. You know, when I talked about partnership for accelerator programs, Bryan, this is gradually saying that we expect that you'll be part of this. And so Bryan is also the best-selling author of the book, The Future of Insurance, that speaks about future of insurance from disruption to evolution, that shares, case study of legacy and, startup carriers overcoming the barriers to change that we all face in the industry to innovate, to help insurance, in industry to innovate as well as to help insurance move forward and evolve. He's also one of the sought after speakers, so much that Bryan has spoken at TEDx. And of course, his book is one of the bestsellers. So again, welcome, Bryan. And moving on finally to the IBS Man of the Year, which is Rob Galbraith. So Rob Galbraith is the author of the best-selling book, The End of Insurance as We Know It. Rob has been called the patron saint of InsurTech, a global InsurTech thought leader, and the most interesting man in insurance. I still cannot get over that particular name. And anyway, moving on, Rob is a popular keynote speaker, also another sought-after speaker who has spoken at events worldwide on topics of innovation, InsurTech, and the future of insurance. Rob has over 25 years of experience in insurance in a variety of leadership positions with the USA, as well as in City, as well as Federal Reserve Board. Rob has a Master's of Science in Insurance Management from Boston University and a Bachelor of Arts in Economics from Michigan State University. Rob, thank you for coming. And on that note, these are our, panelists, and I would like to leave this for Damola to, carry on with the conversation. Thank you, everyone, for gracing this particular event. We would now open the floor for the conversation proper.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Folumy, for that. Thank you, everyone, again, for joining us. And everyone who is joining us online on YouTube, thank you very much for joining us. So this is going to be a very interesting conversation, open conversation. So if you have questions, please just drop it in the chat, and we'll pick it up from there and ask the guests. So hi, everyone, and welcome again. So let's go straight into it. I'm going to start with Frederik. Frederik, it's been a pleasure meeting you, and it's been interesting what you've been doing. I mean, some of the things that we've learned from our conversation with you on our podcast, but also your post online and on YouTube and things like that in the space of digital transformation, right? A lot of the things that we do, I mean, I know that we had a conversation about, digitization and digitalization. How can we get it right? We can say, yes, we are digitizing, but then the process is still somewhat the same. How exactly can we get it right?
That's a fantastic question. And I think that the answer is frighteningly simple, because it all boils down to people. The way that you should approach any digital transformation or business transformation is start with the people. And I think especially at the moment in the insurance industry, we have a tendency to fall in love with the InsurTechs that goes out and say, we're going to disrupt the market and just you wait and see. But we haven't really seen any real disruption yet. And the InsurTechs are still depending on the incumbents to move on, apart from a very few. And I think I'm trying to say that we are fast as humans to fall in love with the new and the exciting. And I see a lot of insurers that are jumping ahead of the game and trying to make partnerships or trying to create innovation labs and or doing digital transformation, or at least that's what they're telling that they're doing. And at the end of the day, they don't get the results that they wanted to get. And in my experience, which is around 20 plus years of doing transformation in companies, it's because we forget the human factor. We want to figure out what digital trends we can find. We want to figure out how new smart processes we can actually implement. But at the end of the day, it is still humans who are going to define the processes, and it's humans that we need to change in order to do the new, whether it's digital or business transformation. So I think we should, in order to make our transformations more successful, we should take a step back and realize that we're dealing with people, humans, and unfortunately, we as humans, we are very difficult to get to change our habits, right? I mean, so and basically, when you do a transformation, you are changing people's working habits. And I think that the moment that you start to realizing this, then you're also taking the first right step towards a successful transformation of basically any company.
Great. It's interesting that you mentioned people, right? And I'm going to come to Eunice here. I mean, your experience in the industry, I've seen you come through an insurance company and then now running your own InsurTech company. I remember there was a function that I was and you were speaking, and you said something that all of this talk about technology and stuff, does it translate to better penetration? Which is quite key. If you look at our own continent now, the level of penetration is quite low, and then we are seeing that there are a lot of people who have been underserved. Even not just in Africa, even in other parts of the world, right? So, what's your own approach to all of these things? I mean, from your experience, working with an insurer and then running your own InsurTech now.
Thank you very much. That's a good question. I just like Frederik, I always ask, yes, you're doing technology, you're digitizing. Does that translate to penetration? Is the reason for low penetration, especially in Africa, lack of technology? And I would say no. I do not think so. Because if you look at the kind of products that we design, are they people-centric? As Frederik is asking, I think it's time that the insurance sector looked at, human-centered design thinking, whereby we design with the customer and not just building technology for the sake of technology. From my perspective, technology is an enabler, not a solution. It is an enabler of solutions that we have built, that solutions that work for the people. And I'll give, for example, in Kenya, and I don't know whether it's the same in Nigeria. In Kenya, how we live is that if I got a hospital bill, I don't have to worry. I just create a WhatsApp group. I will get my friends into the WhatsApp group, and they will contribute to pay my hospital bill. Now, when you bring insurance to Kenya and say, and you're trying to break that culture, because it's a cultural issue, it's deeply ingrained in us, that even those who have insurance, they still fundraise to for bills. And one of the things that we did at Bisbjerg is to ask, does this rule called the insurable interest really work in Kenya? When you say that I have insurable interest on my husband, and my, that is my nuclear family. Is that the case for us in Kenya? And I think Africa at large, it is not the case. My brother who lives in the village, if the child gets sick, they call me and I send money to pay the bill. So actually, when my insurable interest goes to that extent, including my cousin. So when you build insurance and say I would say it's really copied from Bryan Place and Frederik, we copy and come and paste it here and expect that people will buy it. It doesn't work. I believe that what we need to ask is, what are the existing risk mitigating mechanisms that we have, and how can we enable, insurance to work in that environment? Not trying to get people from their culture. It won't work. Yeah, so that's my perspective. We're doing everything we can to try and design around that. And I believe someday, Frederik, you'll see some change. Yeah.
Yeah, great. I mean, that's what we are looking for. And so I'm going to move to Bryan now. So I know your book speaks about from disruption to evolution. I mean, disruption was a buzzword 2020.
Yeah.
Everyone was disrupt. Came from the point of saying from disruption to everyone. I'm guessing that was informed from some of the conversations that you had with the insurance players that you spoke with on your book, right? But what is your take on how the industry could, should go, post pandemic right now?
Yeah. So the word kind of came about, or it came up in the conversations I was having, but it's something I had been living myself on the carrier side. And then when I was at an InsurTech, the conversations I had with carriers, and it has this very negative tone to it. And I think in 2020, out of necessity, right, we were all disrupted by the same things. It wasn't legacy versus startup and, sort of adversarial headbutting. We're all being disrupted by the same thing. And so there was a sense that actually maybe disruption isn't terrible, isn't a bad thing, because it can move the whole industry forward. So, and that's why I try to move to this word of evolution. It's not about, look, the rug is being taken out from under us. This is about opportunity. And disruption can actually be a good thing that you choose to engage in. And I think that's how, not everyone in the industry, but the overwhelming majority, I think, has started to shift that perspective and see this as a choice and an opportunity to actually disrupt yourself because you had to. So you think about all of those insurers who were 100% in person. Like if you look at life insurance and financial planning, that's an in-person game by and large. And there's some policies that are sold, direct or through a call center or online. They don't have to be in person, but a lot of that is in person. And to Frederik's point about, it's people, right? You're talking about being there for someone at the worst moment of their life. These are very interpersonal, human kind of things going on. You didn't have a choice but to disrupt that, or you don't exist. And I talked to some carriers who were like, well, we're going to wait till this is over and then we'll get back to selling. It's like, so you have zero new business for all of 2020 or most of 2020 and a good chunk of 2021. Tell your shareholders that, or if you're a mutual, tell your policyholders that, why they're not getting a big rebate when, all the other mutuals are giving money back. That's not strategy and that's not survival. And I think because of this shared disruptive force we all faced, it changed a bit of the tone. And I've been feeling that with the startups I work with or the ones I talk to in my new book, where partnership comes up a lot more. And it's not us against them, only the startups, only the incumbents can win. It's more, well, how do we work together? Because that's actually the path. No one has everything they need for pure success forever, right? We do actually need our peers. We need other markets. We need other ideas to take from and to grow from. So it's a nice shift in mindset that unfortunately was caused by, a terrible thing globally that we're still dealing with. But I think it's perhaps that wake up that the industry needed. And I welcome the shift, and hopefully it continues on. I don't think it's a once and done kind of thing. Certainly not if you want to thrive.
I think our host, he left, but Bryan, I have a question I'm dying to ask you, if you don't mind. Because or anybody, I'm so curious to hear, how you see the difference between digitization and digitalization, right? Where digitization is just putting power to your existing processes, and the other is where you are actually, changing the processes for something new. What did you see? What the people that you spoke with and from your book, were they just putting power to whatever they were doing, or did they actually, take a step back and rethink everything?
Yeah, I think that's a great differentiating point. And, I'm sure all of us have seen aspects of this where it's like, well, now we don't issue paper bills. Well, okay, that's fine. Yes, you're more digital. Or, our people can work remotely. That's fantastic. That's digital. Or, you can do everything through the mobile, or, you know, you take a picture of the damage and it gets adjusted. Like, those are all useful, valuable forms of digitization, and we need that. But to think more broadly, how does that all piece together? Someone gave me this really great analogy. It's like asking a 2 or 3 year old to get dressed for the day. They pick out each and every individual favorite piece of clothing, and their favorite shirt and pants and whatever, and each piece looks great, but it's not an outfit, right? It's a combination of kind of wildly unrelated things. That, I think that's where you end up if you just look at it as digitizing. You're enabling a digital version of what you're already doing, which isn't working, right? It's too slow. It's too cumbersome. It's not what customers wanted. It's not meeting, to Eunice's point, the culture in which you're trying to inject your product is not designed the way that your product thinks it is. And so it's never going to fit. It's going to be this mismatch of great looking articles of clothing that don't fit. So of course your penetration is going to stay low. You need to think strategically and holistically about what's the context in the bigger picture. Forget about how we've always done it. Now look at what we need to do. Do we need to call in, you know, what's happening on the fundraising side? And is insurance really about enabling that? Or is it just trying to force feed your way into replacing that, when that's not how people are wired in that context? Or, you know, we still have 93 steps in the process, but each one of them happens on a mobile or without paper. That's great, but not really, when you could do it in 4 or 5 steps. And if you're willing to look at that, I think you can open up great possibility.
But that's actually, thank you. That's actually one of the things that I really took away from your book, Rob. And I was thinking about it when I heard Eunice talk, because I mean, it's again one of the things that really really resonated with me was you having these points that people don't really want to buy insurance, right? And that's what I heard from Eunice as well.
Yeah, I think I always tell people that you know, insurance is not the same product as you know, something that you when you think about going shopping, right? You think about that experience and you get excited about the you know, going shopping, the types of things that you buy. Insurance is never one of those things, right? It's usually something you're told along the way, right? Like I want to get a new automobile, or I want to have a place to live, or I want to start a new business. Well, you know, part of the steps along the way, oh, you need to purchase insurance coverage, and so it's almost a necessary step as part of a broader process to get something done that you want to do. And when insurance isn't required, in many cases, and to Eunice's point, like, we don't think about it, or we may come up with other solutions. And if that's, you know, using a credit card, getting a loan, you know, having everybody from the family chip in, you know, however we do them across countries and across this cultures, you know, we don't immediately leap to mind of, oh, you know, I wish I had an insurance product. And I think that really, I love what Eunice said about design thinking. And I think we're going through this massive change in the insurance industry of going from being product centric. We kind of look at the customer needs and we say, well, how does that map to the existing products that I already have? And we're truly being customer centric, whether it's the customer first. So a lot of you know, top companies are doing this, right? The Amazon, Netflix, some of these big global companies that we heard about, right? They're setting the expectation that consumers have much higher than they've ever done before. And so it's forcing us as an insurance industry to adapt. And I think that's where InsurTechs have the right mindset, because they see a problem, right, that exists in society, and they're not constrained by outmoded ways of thinking. That doesn't mean that they can't benefit from a partnership with an existing organization. So I think, to your point, Frederik, some have gone alone, but you know, that disruption hasn't happened. It's been more, to Bryan's point, kind of an evolution. But I think the biggest change is that going from product centric to being customer centric.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Rob. I'm going to stay with you. And so I have a question here from Raymond Momanyi. So he's asking, so how do we focus InsurTech on growing insurance uptake and disruption, mostly in Africa? So how has the COVID-19 pandemic really affected this?
Yeah, I want to again just really emphasize Eunice's point. I think in the past, you may have a product that's worked in European market or the Americas, and then you say, okay, we see that we don't have the same level of market penetration for this product in Africa. Let's go bring that product over to Kenya or to Nigeria or otherwise. And that probably isn't the right product, right? That product is for a different country with different needs, different rules, different market, different culture, different society. And I'm starting to see InsurTechs, both startups and existing firms that are looking to launch new products and new offerings. They kind of start in a particular country with a particular market segment, and they really understand that very, very deeply and very, very well, as Eunice has illustrated. And then they iterate. Usually what I find is that entrepreneurs, there's never been an entrepreneur that I met that when they describe what problem they're trying to solve that I ever said, that's not really a problem. That doesn't exist. I don't think that's a big deal. Like that, people have already solved that. I almost never think that. But what is definitely true is whatever solution you come up with to solve that problem, you usually don't get it right the first time. So whatever initial thought that you had, there's usually going to be more to it, and you're going to have to experiment. You're going to have to try multiple things, and so you won't get it right off the beginning. And so I think that's really, we think about disruption like a big bang, like somebody had this brilliant idea and they executed on that and the whole world was changed. And, that's really not the way things work. You'll hear about, how many times they tried to invent the light bulb before they found a formula that worked.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
It's really, I think, about that overnight success is actually a lot of experimentation and a lot of hard work and collaboration, formally or informally, to arrive at the best solution.
It's interesting that you mentioned collaboration and partnership. So I know that, Frederik, in your capacity and doing a lot of innovation and digitalization with your company, definitely, this whole idea about collaboration or partnership is not going to be strange, right? Because you cannot change things overnight. You have to collaborate, even in-house and outside, right? For the industry as a whole, right? How important is it for us to embrace the whole idea around collaborations and partnerships, right? Insurance it seems like that whole idea is not, we don't like it. We like to have our own thing, have our own data, have our own customers, and things like that. Let's just be where we are, and maybe that's why we are where we are today. But what's your take on collaborations and partnerships?
I think you know the answer, but I think before we go there, let me just say that we as in the industry, we tend to focus on the 10 to 15% of the incumbents and the InsurTechs that makes the most noise and or have the most money, are the biggest companies, right? And I think these specific companies, they may have the power to do things themselves and push it through, which we see especially in the Far East, right? But for the rest of us, I don't think we should even consider doing anything ourselves, because we have legacy systems, we have silos, we have bureaucracy, we have so many things that stops, I would say, 80% of all incumbent insurers. So I truly believe the only way you can ever progress an insurance company, which I truly believe you have to, is to find to spend your internal energy in enabling you to connect with InsurTechs, with partners, so you can find especially these specific InsurTechs that matches your core competences and your strategy, and work with them, and through that, I wouldn't even say disrupt, but at least move your company ahead. I don't think, if you look at the normal 80% of the insurance industry, I don't think they have the capabilities or the risk willingness in the owners of the board of directors to do the things that are required, which is why I believe truly the only way you can do it is finding the right InsurTechs to partner with, so you can do it together. and that just requires that you spend your internal energy in opening up your systems and removing some of the bureaucracy. So it's actually possible to do so. Thanks.
So yeah, great point there. So Bryan, so your book has you speaking with a number of incumbents, right? And I know that there's another one coming which you are speaking with InsurTech, right? So, but with the first one now, around collaboration and partnership. So probably if they have done it better or they have made it sooner, or maybe it was something that they were considering or actually working on at the moment.
Yeah, so I think there's a shift happening around partnerships and openness to it. It's in pockets, but it has definitely picked up steam. And again, I think last year made that more accepted, because the speed, you couldn't now wait 2 years to build something. You had to get it off the shelf. And this enabled by two things: the cloud and APIs. So the fact that you could get some new solution and deploy it rapidly because it's spinning up another instance on Amazon Web Services or whatever, and deploy it really, really quickly to a dispersed workforce, that's really powerful. And with APIs, you can then connect it back to your core systems. Yes, there's effort, but it might be 4 to 8 weeks, not 4 to 8 months or years, like a typical integration. That word integration is so scary. So the notion of partnering, I think, has changed for a lot of folks. You have some other factors, putting the pandemic aside, that are driving that even further. And one is on the data side. Yes, carriers love to have their data. It's their secret sauce. It's what drives their underwriting. It's very important. But there's certain kinds of data that no one company, no matter how big they are, will ever have as much insight into as if you can look across. So for example, one of the companies I talked about did work with an AI and ML based, artificial intelligence, machine learning based fraud solution. One of their decisions to go outside for that solution was they recognized they're quite sizable, but even at their scale, they're still not going to catch all of the, you're talking about fraud, all of the fraud rings and scams that are going on. Because let's say there's a doctor's office who's inappropriately billing for medical services. They're very smart. They have turned their fraud into a business. This is not every doctor and not every fraudulent doctor out there, but there are offices that it's a factory. They've productized their ability to commit fraud. And so they're monitoring, these 5 claims are with this one insurer. We can't commit fraud on all of them because they might catch it. Or we need to make sure the adjuster is different. And we don't have 2 with the same adjuster in this many months or weeks. So that carrier is never going to catch that behavior or see it across the 30 or 40 other insurers that are also victims of this fraud. But if you're an industry-wide solution used by a few of those carriers, you catch it. And so each of those carriers benefits. So you start to see things like that where, there's value in not building it yourself, aside from the fact that, the tool will be kept up to date and you'll benefit from the other accounts that they have and what those accounts push them to do and all that. And I think CIOs especially have woken up to that, and they're much more accepting with it. But we still have a ways to go. But there's definitely a shift going on right now.
Right. So Eunice, so I have a comment here. This is Dwayne, and he was saying that he was speaking about being an agent. So he was referring to Bryan's comments, and he says, we are there for the customers on their worst days. So as a prior agent, underwriter, adjuster, I remind myself of that almost daily as I make and influence portfolio level decisions, and recommendations, right? So you were an agent, right? And I was an agent, and I'm very passionate about that. I mean, starting off in that space, it wasn't easy, trust me, and all of those details definitely in your book. But from that experience, how has that experience, shaped how you run Bismart Insurance today? I mean, you're just growing, right? But how has that shaping what you're doing at the moment, products or engagement with the customers?
Thank you. Good question. How my experience as an agent is helping me run Bismart, or that transitioned me to be an entrepreneur. Number one, I was an agent not by training, not by plan, just by curiosity. So, and I started as a customer. And one of the things I wondered is why my colleagues where I was working were running away from agents. Yet they have already confirmed the meeting, but when the agent comes, they look for a reason not to show up for the appointment. And so, of course, it came at a time when I was also tired of my job. And so I thought, let me find out why do customers run away from agents? Because it's either the agent has a problem or the product has a problem. So for me to join insurance, I wasn't joining to be an agent for a lifetime. It was more of discovery. And I discovered quite a number of things. We try to create problems, because you see, like what Bryan is saying, that you try to look at the product you have, create a problem around the customer so that the customer sees it's a real problem, and sell the product. I was selling life insurance. It is very difficult to sell life insurance, especially in Africa. And so I started learning and asking why, my best question ever, and I keep asking the same question, why? The why is what leads me to whatever I do. So the same why led me to leave, to stop being an agent. And now I wanted to understand, I realized customers do not trust, I would not blame the agent. But of course, there's also the delivery of the product that is a problem, how it is presented. It's a push. When you push something, people repel. When you try to sell and sell and sell, people will run away from you because nobody wants to be sold anything. So that is one issue. Then I asked, what else? And so that is how I got a job as in business development. And I sat in the product development committee in the company that I was working in. And my question was, why and why not? Because you go to the customer and you actually can see the need of the customer. You come with this need to the office and share in the product committee where we have the underwriters, the actuaries, and everybody in that team. And they say, no, we don't do it this way. Policy does not allow. And then my question is, then why are we here? If it's about policy, and I remember one time asking my colleague, who wrote the policy? And they did not know who did it. And so why are you just following something you do not even know the writer? Why don't you rewrite your own? And so that led me to actually leave the employment, because I have so many questions that I need to answer and mostly experiment them. And the difficulty in working in a big organization, like as Frederik said, is the structures, the bureaucracy, the silos. So as much as the organization want to innovate, they cannot, because innovation requires experimenting, and experiments are quick, and fast. So you experiment and fail and experiment again, fail again, and until you find what works. So when I realized I want to experiment, but I'm also restrained by policies. So I left to start Bismart so that I can experiment. And and so we actually started the easy way, which was a comparison platform, because I found out that had already worked in different places, UK, India. And so we started the easy way so that we have some revenue as we experiment. And one thing that I've learned is that it's not about the comparison. Yes, the transparency works for only the existing customers. That means we are solving a problem for just the less than 3% that are already covered. And that's a very murky and bloody section to operate at, because everybody, every insurer, every broker, they play in that red ocean. And so that is how we decided. We asked, what do Kenyans want? What do Africans, how do they live? How about, what if it's not even insurance that they need? It could be something else. So we're in that journey of discovering what exactly can work. And recently we launched a product for crowdfunding. You see, because that is, we are always fundraising. And so we asked, why don't you fundraise today and then share a common, have this pool of benefits that you can access. And there's no limitation. You don't have to be blood related. You can just come with your friends, with your extended family, crowdfund, and share the benefits. And I will not say that we have arrived, because we're still trying to see whether it works. So far, we've been able to insure about 500 lives since January. So I think it is working.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you mentioned Discovery, right? Discovery is one of the most innovative insurance companies in the world, coming out of South Africa. And I mean, I was listening to a podcast about, how it all started, and the way they thought about not selling insurance, but really providing healthier living, right? And that's how Vitality came about, and things like that. Now Vitality is worldwide, and it's super interesting. How you just have to think differently about all of these things. There are some points that you mentioned there that I want us to, and I want to hear each and every one of us's opinion about this. Talking about the underserved, talking about closing the protection gap that exists, not just in Africa, but around the world. This has come to bear, following the pandemic. There are a lot of people who don't have the protection that they need, right? So my question now is, because there's a lot of talk about, yes, tech, InsurTech, this, that, and people on this call have written books about all of those things. Now, the question now is, can InsurTech help? Really? Can InsurTech help? We've talked about collaboration. We talked about, the will to do that. From some of the engagements that you've been having in the industry, can InsurTech really help in achieving more people getting protection, getting the cover that they need? I'll start with Bryan.
Yeah, so I think there's lots of individual InsurTechs that can help with individual problems and needs, and that's great. But I think it's more fundamental than that. What you tend to see in almost every one of these companies is there's a different mindset to how they engage, and it goes back really early on to the point that was made, and now I'm forgetting who made it, but the design thinking and customer centricity to the mindset. It's either Frederik or Eunice, or maybe both of you. But we'll just give everyone else credit, so that's fine. I know, Rob, I know it wasn't you, and I know it wasn't me, so someone smarter than us said it. But that's what's at the heart, and you see them over and over again where they take an engineering mindset to this. And I always say the difference with an engineer and really almost any other profession out there is engineers will always solve every problem. You give them a problem, whether it's impossible or not, they will look at it and say, okay, we're going to try this, or that didn't work, we're going to do this other thing. The only impossibility to them might be around the time of it. So you give them some gap, some hole that needs filling, and they will find a way to fill it. And that mindset is present in almost every InsurTech, whether it's a startup carrier or MGA or a service provider or enabler, whatever. They're there to solve problems, and that's what we're talking about. Get in the mindset of those living with the need or the hole or the problem, and engineers will solve for it. So you add in insurance talent to that, that's what moves us forward. And I think that's brilliant. It tends to be design thinking, customer centric. That I think is the real enabler that comes with InsurTech. And that's also why it doesn't have to be a startup. Anyone can do that if they're willing to.
Yeah, great, great. Frederik, you want to jump on this quickly?
I think Bryan, he said, you actually said what I wanted to say in one sentence, right? Because individually there are great things out there, but it's more fundamental that needs to change. But also bearing in mind or adding a grain of realism from the insurance world, right? I think it has to be a parallel process, because right now there is, I'm going back to my 80% of the insurers, right? There is so many insurers that are so behind what we are seeing and talking about. And I think for them, it would be very beneficial of using the individual InsurTechs that are quote unquote easier to partner with, just to start doing something, and then on a parallel track, maybe even building on the small successes that they get from partnering with the individual InsurTechs, building on this and say, okay, now we know how to work work with the new world, the InsurTechs. Now we are starting, redesigning our core offerings as well. I think we have to look at both, and it has to be a parallel process, because you're saying it with the engineers, right? If you're taking an incumbent insurer and asking them to redesign everything that they're doing, I mean, that we're gonna see 2 or 3 pandemics before they're ready, right? So that's why it's for me. I think the realistic solution is actually doing both things in parallel, right? Thank you.
All right. So, Rob, can take a stab at this, and maybe you can speak from the point of view of how can we attract younger generation, because another challenge is the fact that you have a growing industry where there are older people in the space, right? And they don't seem to want to leave. Sorry. How can we, I mean, InsurTechs are coming in. It means younger people are coming in. Is that a way? Is that what you talk about it?
Yeah, what we learn about young people all across the world is that they're really passionate about social causes. There's never been greater awareness globally of the challenges that people have in their lives, and that has a really, really broad scope. Everybody that I've talked to over the past year during the COVID-19 pandemic, it's actually remarkable about how similar our lives have been. We've all stayed, very close to our home. Many of us have been wearing masks. Many of us have been, very cautious, and it didn't seem to matter who I was talking to, where they were in the world. Their life experience day to day was actually quite similar. And the amazing part is that technology has allowed us this view into each other's lives. The fact that we were able to connect today on this broadcast is just amazingly powerful. I know we take it for granted. It's become common, but I think we should step back and say that it's pretty remarkable. And because we have this greater awareness, particularly young people, of some of the challenges out there, I think that insurance, because it is financial services that provides assistance at people's greatest time of need, and whether that is insuring their greatest asset, whether that be a bike or a car or a flat or whatever, whether that be somebody's life, somebody's health, that they're going through poor health. It's not just a bank account or a stock or a bond or a loan. Like the money comes at the point where you need it the most. And so there's a social element to insurance that I think is really remarkable. And then the fact that you can rethink it from a blank page. It doesn't have to be done the way that it's always done. And that's really why I titled my book, The End of Insurance as We Know It. Risk is not going away. The need for insurance as a concept is not going away. Yet there's so many new ways to implement it with the democratization of technology. Almost everybody has access. Bryan mentioned cloud computing, to technology that used to only be accessible to the largest organizations. And so it provides people with the tools and resources to unlock their creativity to work on this challenge.
All right, awesome. You're fast spent on time. So at this point, I just want to let's just round this up, and just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for sharing as much as you did. I really enjoyed this session. It was really interesting conversation. I mean, technology happened. I logged off a bit when I came back in. Yeah, so yeah, we won. So thank you very much. I mean, it's been a pleasure meeting each and every one of you in the past year. Trust me, I've met all of you guys in the past 1 year, and that's super amazing. And thank you to the technology, thank you to the internet, thank you to maybe the pandemic. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. And so, I mean, at this point, we just want to go straight to the toast. If you are with your water, your wine, so I would hand it over to Rob. Rob.
Thank you so much, Damola and Folumy. And it has been an honor to meet you and to have been the very first podcast guest 1 year ago. It's hard to imagine, and to be named the InsurTech Business Series Man of the Year for 2020. So I just want to thank you very much for your friendship. So I want to propose a toast for all of you that are on the call, all of our speakers, and all of you that are watching. To Damola and Folumy, here's to your remarkable spirit and passion for building out a lively InsurTech community in Nigeria and throughout the African continent and really globally. Your outreach to leaders, technologists, and entrepreneurs has helped bring people together from around the world to connect and exchange ideas to build and grow the insurance marketplace to serve the unique needs of people. You exemplify the phrase, think global, act local. And I've been thrilled to have been associated with you and to collaborate with you. You've both been featured on the American podcast Spot On Insurance, which I highly encourage people to listen to those episodes. May you continue to thrive in the years ahead to continue to grow the InsurTech Business Series community and inspire innovation that provides much needed financial security that unlocks human potential to dare and dream. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
So
Such
much.
kind words. Thank you. I really appreciate that. We really appreciate that. Thank you very much for everything. I mean, it's the beginning of a relationship, and that's one thing. I mean, when I was in school, myself and Folumy, we are communication students. I mean, one of my professors then used to tell us the world is becoming a global village. I'm like, global village, okay. And then today I'm seeing that right now. I'm connecting with the US, I'm connecting with Kenya, I'm connecting with the UAE, and I'm still here in Nigeria in my room, right? So super grateful to be speaking with you guys, to have connected. I don't know if Folumy has anything to say before we close this session.
Okay, so again, thank you very much, Rob, for your time. Really, it's been an interesting session, like Damola rightly said, and thank you so much, Eunice. I'm hoping that crowdfunding actually really works. Maybe the rest of us will be banking on the fact that it works and see how to implement that as well. So well done. Also for Bryan, excited to know that you have a book coming up based on InsurTech, and we're looking forward to also having to experience, the thoughts in that as well. And for Frederik, I also want to say thank you so much for your time. Again, one of the best things I know I've always mentioned is the mini MBA, on digitalization, and I think that it is very, very, very good. So thank you very much for coming on our, anniversary events. I'm sure that a lot of people would have been excited to have met you all today, and I think that I don't know how to appreciate further, but yeah, this is me expressing my gratitude. And to all of our listeners, I'm sure that you have made this a success. So thank you so much. We can't thank you enough. And we hope that this community continues to grow, as well as bringing the innovation that we so desire. On that note, I would like to pass the vote of thanks to Damola, and before we wrap this up.
Yes, thank you very much. I mean, you took the words out of my mouth. Thank you. We can't say thank you enough. Honestly, I'm sure that all my mails have been thank you. I'm sure you say, wow, what's happening? Yeah, but yeah, very, very much thank you for everything. having all of these conversations and really just growing the space. The whole idea was, how can we grow the space, help people to learn? And that's why we thought that, hey, we need to speak with people who have written some literature. And so we need to, how can we learn about these new things and then adapt them to what we are doing and, change what we are doing. At this point, I want to recommend to everyone who is listening, you need to get Rob's book. You need to get Rob's book. You need to get Bryan's book as well. Very practical. And then every insurance company now is having to talk about digital transformation. I'm sure there's no board meeting that they own agenda, how do we digitize one way or another, right? And so if you need a crash course, you need to understand it. If you want to get that, okay, maybe this weekend, by Monday, I'm the guru. You need to get Frederik's book and Eunice. I mean, if you are an entrepreneur, or maybe you're even in the agency space at the moment, trust me, you need to get Eunice's book. That's a fantastic book that everyone has done. And I mean, lastly, I just wanted to mention that Frederik is part of the digital insurer, and that's a super amazing platform for us to learn, really, to improve our capacity and just grow, which is very, very much important as we change the way that we do business and take, in order for us to take the insurance industry to where we need it to go. So thank you very much to everyone. Thank you everyone on this call. Thank you to all our listeners. We've had so many feedbacks, positive feedback. I mean, I want to hear the bad ones, but I'm happy with the positive ones, right? So super amazing. We have had 25 episodes so far, and that's, I mean, our first episode was with the most interesting man in insurance. That tops it all, and so thank you very much. Each and everyone on this call has been on our podcast, so you can check that out on all the platforms that you listen to podcasts, and very interesting conversations, and we definitely will be engaging more and more, engaging them and others as well within Africa and outside Africa. Idea is, how can we put this space, how can we innovate? So thank you very much for a fantastic 1 year. This is to many more years of growing the space and being better, as humans, and also for the industry as well. And lastly, I just want to drop a word for our friends in India. I know that a lot of things have picked up in terms of COVID, recently. Our thoughts are with you guys. Just stay safe and that you go through this. We have some amazing Indian friends amongst us, and so thank you very much for all your support. And this is us saying goodbye and have a very fantastic weekend. I know some people on this call are just starting their Friday. My Friday is almost up. Oh yes, in Kenya and in UAE as well. So we are going to party right now. Folumy and I are going to party. Yes. But yeah, Bryan and Rob, have a very hard working day. Yes. But thank you very much, and stay safe, everyone.
Thank you, and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye, Eunice.